Thank you and welcome to this webinar. Today we're going to be looking at the Detained Duty Advice Scheme surgeries. We're going to go through everything you can possibly think of. So we're going to go through what happens before you attend the DDAS surgery, what happens during the DDAS surgery, as well as what you need to know in order to claim for DDAS surgeries successfully after you have completed them as well. There are some slides that go along with this as well, so please do have a look for those. And on there are some useful contacts and links. And I will also be referring to some of the slides at particular points as well. Okay, so without any further ado, we are going to get started. So the Detained Duty Advice Scheme surgery, so DDAS for short, so I will be referring to them as DDAS surgeries. You're going to have a talk. We're going to talk about what happens in terms of communications that you should expect before the surgery, what you need to do before the surgery, what might happen and when during the surgery, as well as what to do if you can't attend. And as I said, we'll also be looking at how to claim for those surgeries. Okay, so a quick overview of some really basic things to remember. So a DDAS surgery is made up of a maximum of 10 appointments. You should never receive a list of more than 10 appointments. And if you do, we would ask that you do contact the LAA IRC queries team so that we are made aware. Okay, each appointment will last no more than 30 minutes. I am aware that in the past you may have been able to spend a little bit more time with clients if you had less than those 10 appointments. However, it is increasingly important that you do make sure that you stick to the timetable that the IRC give you where possible, and you do ensure that those appointments don't last any more than the 30 minutes scheduled. Okay. DDAS surgeries are face-to-face and in person at the IRC. That is the expectation. If that is not possible for any reason, again, please do contact the IRC queries team and or your contract manager in advance so that we can talk to you about various options. A caseworker does need to also be available for the entirety of each of the surgery days, okay, and they must also complete all of the appointments listed, okay. It is not a choice if you can't run out of time because you have to leave early. The caseworker needs to be available and they need to complete all of the appointments listed. The surgeries are conducted within business hours, but just to be aware that the exact timings can vary across the IRC estate. That is because IRCs do have various different things that they have to complete at set times. And so you might see that timings do change according to availability and some of those restrictions. To note as well, really important that there is no legal aid agency staff that is located at IRC. So you will not see me or any of my colleagues from the legal aid agency when you are attending the IRCs. If you do need to report anything, if there are any problems, if you can please email us or give us a call if it's particularly urgent, and we'll be able to try and resolve any issues. But if you don't do that, we won't know unless you or the IRC have reported it. So please do let us know. Okay, the last thing just to bear in mind before we go into more specific items is that the IRC staff are the ones that make the appointments. They are the ones that organise and hold the lists of clients for surgery days. Okay. We will go on to it in a second with regards to when you should expect to get that list, but if you don't get that list by the appointed time, please do make sure that you're reaching out to the IRC that you are due to attend to check if there are any clients to be seen on that surgery day. Feel free to CC in the IRC queries team at the LAA. We are more than happy to assist if we need to, but it is only the IRC staff that will be able to provide that list to you. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to what you should expect before the actual surgery takes place. And this is divided into 3 parts. So what happens at the start of a rota period, what happens the week before your surgery, and also what to expect by midday the day before your surgery. Okay, so we'll take each of those in order. So the first thing we're going to look at is what you need to do and what happens at the start of the rota period. So the first thing to bear in mind is that all of this work is contracted work, so you must make sure that you have got a signed contract that includes IRCs, okay, and DDAS work. You do need to check that your schedule has the correct IRCs listed. So make sure that you've got the correct IRCs and also that they are all on there and there's none missing that you have bid and have successfully tendered for. Okay, you do need to reply to your rota letter. So this is a letter that was sent to you in the most recent rota period. So that was sent to you on the 31st of July. Okay, and that rota letter has all of your rota slots listed for you by IRC. It's also got an overview at the top telling you how many rotas that you are on, so how many slots you have. Okay, but it's really important that you reply to that letter so that you make sure that the LAA, the IRC queries team, have got the most up-to-date contact details for you. Okay. Make sure that anyone involved in delivering DDAS at your firm is familiar with the relevant sections of the IRC practical guide, also the contract, the schedule in particular. Okay, but the IRC practical guide, the name is on the tin, it does give you a practical guidelines for attending your DDAS surgeries. That IRC practical guide was on the same email where you received your rota letters, so you should have received that on the 31st of July this year. If you haven't, again, contact the IRC queries team and they will make sure that you get a copy of that, but do check your spam and junk files to make sure that it hasn't dropped in there. If it has, please do make sure that your emails are updated so that you will receive emails from that IRC queries team inbox. Also, you need to take any action that's required to ensure that the rota days allocated have an assigned caseworker. You are expected to be able to manage that yourselves, and you are expected to attend all of the rota days that you have been allocated. Okay, we would also expect that if you are already aware that you're going to be unable to attend any of those DDAS surgeries, that you try to make alternative arrangements in the first instance. However, if that doesn't work, if you could please make sure that you let the IRC queries team know as soon as possible. Okay. Okay. Moving on then, we are going to have a look at what happens the week before your surgery. So the first thing that you need to be thinking about the week before you have any surgeries is your capacity. Have a look, do you have capacity to take on any clients that you see that have substantive matters? If the answer is no, please do let the IRC queries team know so that you can discuss the various options with them. Okay, if the answer is yes, that is brilliant. What you will receive is an email from the IRC queries team that will be a quick reminder, just letting you know when you have got your IRC rota slots, which IRC it is, and what days. Make sure that your caseworker is clear on which IRCs they need to attend on what days, especially if you've got multiple surgeries in a single week, and also the likely timings of the appointments. So as I said before, each of the IRCs does run slightly differently, so please bear in mind that you may have to arrive slightly earlier in order to be able to start those surgeries in some cases. The attending caseworker may also need to make arrangements with the IRC, so for things like parking permits, or they may need to send ID or other forms prior to arrival. Again, each IRC can be slightly different, so do make sure that you're checking with them beforehand to make sure that the caseworker has everything that they need. Okay. Again, I'm going to repeat it over and over again, I'm afraid, but if your caseworker is no longer able to attend the DDAS surgery, in the first instance, you should be trying to make alternative arrangements yourselves. If for whatever reason that is not possible, again, you need to make sure you are contacting the IRC queries team as soon as possible and allow them enough time to try and find an alternative provider to reallocate that surgery to. Okay, the longer you give us, the more likely it is that that surgery will continue to go ahead. Obviously, it makes everyone's lives so much easier if we can have that before the lists are sent out, which does bring us neatly onto what happens no later than 12 midday, the day before your surgery. So this is the working day before your surgery that I'm talking about. So if your surgery is on a Monday, for example, it is the last working day before the surgery. So that is Friday by midday. Okay, any other day, it will be the day before. So first thing you need to do, check the list. Make sure you've received it and you note the time of the appointments. Please do make sure that if you are unable to attend, again, for any reason, or if that start time may need to be delayed, contact the IRC in the first instance. See if there is any workaround for that. If not, let the IRC queries team know. Okay. The caseworker should be arriving at the IRC around about 30 minutes before the surgery, so bear that in mind when you are looking at those start times as well. Okay, you do need to make sure that you arrange for interpreters and that they are available at the allocated times. We do know that this can be difficult at times, so if you aren't able to arrange an interpreter for the allocated time that is listed on the note that the IRC send you, please do contact the IRC. Let them know that an interpreter isn't available and that the client will need to be seen at a different time. They will do everything that they can to make those rearrangements, but if that isn't possible, they will let you know and that client may have to drop off the list. Okay, and they may be added to the following working day. Make sure that you have any forms that you need the clients to sign, for example, printed ahead of time. It may not be possible on the day. IRC should have printing, scanning, copying facilities, but I think we have all experienced tech difficulties at the last minute. So please do make sure that you're prepared for that to happen. If you don't receive a list from the IRC, by that midday, the working day before the surgery, please do make sure that you are contacting the IRC directly to ask them for that list or for them to confirm whether or not there are clients to see. Okay, as I said right at the beginning, the LAA, the legal aid agency, my colleagues and I are not at the IRCs, so we won't know if that IRC list has come to you or not, and we also will not have that list to provide to you. So by all means, copy us into the email that you send so that we're aware of the situation, but we will not be able to provide that list for you on their behalf. Okay, as I say, let the IRC queries team know if there are any issues or problems, and as soon as possible. Okay, the longer we have, the better we are able to assist and find a resolution that is going to work for everyone, that will also keep the surgery on track. Okay. So that is what happens before the surgeries. We'll now go on to what happens during the surgery. So as I said, really important you take note of those start times. It can take up to 30 minutes to gain entry through security, etc. at the IRC. Some IRCs do have more security, so that might take longer. Also be aware that these surgeries generally start around about 9 AM in the morning, so you are potentially going to hit rush hour traffic, so please bear that in mind when you are working out how long it's going to take you to get there and how long you need before that first appointment. Okay, You should be shown straight to the room where you're going to conduct the face-to-face surgery. There will be a telephone in that room so that you can get your interpreter dialed in, okay? And the client should be brought to you with all of their relevant documents as soon as that appointment is due to begin. Now, with that point, so again, we're going to come back to this idea that the appointment should last no longer than 30 minutes. The IRCs, as well as the client, should be aware that those relevant documents do need to be brought with them to that appointment. If they don't bring those documents, you do have two options. So you can ask them to go and retrieve those documents from their room. However, that will reduce the amount of time available, so reduce that 30 minutes for the appointment to go ahead, because as I said before, we are starting to see an increase in the number of clients that may need an appointment, so overrunning those times just isn't possible anymore, unfortunately. Okay, the other option is that you do speak to the client without those documents. However, we would ask you to make sure that the client is very clear on what they need to send you, and that you may not be able to make a decision as a result of not having those documents whilst you're in that surgery. Okay. Again, you shouldn't see any more than 10 clients in one surgery day. And as I've just said again, each appointment should last no more than 30 minutes. Okay. You should assess the client's eligibility for legal aid, and you must give advice with regards to bail. Okay, those are part of the obligations of attending a DDAS surgery. You should also take on any client that you assess meets the criteria for legal aid. So this is where it's really important that you have assessed your capacity ahead of time so that you are aware that you can take those clients on. Again, any delay can mean that they don't get the legal advice that they need ahead of what may happen. Okay, they might need it very, very quickly. So please do make sure that you are assessing your own capacity. And if you aren't able to meet that demand, please do let the IRC queries team know. Okay, the last thing that needs to be really clear is at the end of the appointment, you must give the client a copy of the appointment summary. Okay, so this is a contractual obligation. This is something that you must do, and we're going to go into this a little bit more detail now. So if you are following along on the slides, if I can just ask you to have a look at slide 14, this will give you an overview of what needs to be contained in that summary. For ease, we have put a pro forma together, so you can use that. It is part of the IRC practical guide, and again, in that email that you received on the 31st of July, you would have also had an editable copy as a Word document so that you can use that. Okay, but what needs to be included? So the first thing, just to bear in mind, it does have to be in a written format, so you can't give a verbal update. Okay, it does need to be in a written format. You should give details of the outcome of the appointment. So that could be whether or not you're taking the case on, the reason for not taking a case on, for example, and you also need to include what advice you have given with regards to bail. Okay. You should include the name of the caseworker who has advised the client. Please do make sure that it is the caseworker's name and not just the firm name that is recorded on there. And you also need to be able to provide details to the client of how to make an appointment. So obviously those caseworker details and also the details of a complaint, you can pop those in very preemptively into that pro forma, save it as your own template, and it can be used again and again. Okay, so please do bear that in mind. Other things that you should also aim to include, so things like clear details of the next steps that the client needs to take. This is one of the biggest causes for unnecessary contact with yourselves as the provider, but also between the LAA and IRC staff, and is also the biggest reason for complaints that the IRC staff receive from clients following a DDAS appointment, is that they just don't know what's going on. They don't know they don't know what they need to do next. They may not have heard from their provider for quite some time, but that may be because you are waiting for something from them before you can proceed. So please do make sure that those next steps are really clearly detailed. Okay. We would advise that that is in plain English, so English that is really easy to either understand as it is or is really easy to translate with a tool such as Google Translate. We would also like you to aim to provide contact details where you have taken on the case. So that might be the caseworker that is taking on the case, as well as an email address or a contact phone number. And if you have asked for any further documents, it's also really important that you explain what those documents are and also the contact email address for those to be sent to. Okay, again, really, really, really important to be able to progress that case, but also to make sure you don't get unnecessary contacts or delays in the system because the person has contacted your office address, for example, when you expecting them to contact you on your personal work address. Okay. As I say, we have provided a pro forma for you, so hopefully that will be easier for you to use. We are always interested in feedback, so please do feel free to let the IRC queries team know if there is anything that you think needs to change on that pro forma to make it easier, or that is just not necessary on there. Okay, you do need to make sure that the client is given a copy of the summary at the end of the DDAS surgery. Okay, that can either be as an electronic copy, so you can email it to them, or as a paper copy. Okay, however, the client must receive this on the day of the surgery so that they're able to access further alternative advice or also action those next steps as quickly as possible if they need to. Okay, again, really important that you just double check the email address. If you were given one by the IRC staff on that list, that it is correct, and that is your chance to do that. Okay. Okay, so we're entering into the last section then, and we're going to be looking at how you claim for DDAS surgeries. Okay, so if you have a look at slides 16 and 17, they will detail what you can claim and how. So what can you claim after a DDAS surgery? So DDAS surgeries, they have got a set fee for the surgery, and it does depend on the number of clients that you see. So if you see 5 or more clients, it is £360 set fee. If you see 4 clients or fewer, then it is a set fee of £180. On top of that, you can claim the cost of travel to and from the IRC, as well as any disbursements, for example, interpreter costs, and that is done in line with how that is set out in the immigration and asylum specification. Okay, if you do attend the IRC and you are not advised in advance by the IRC that there are no clients to see, so you arrive and there is no one to see, and you have taken action to make sure that that wasn't the case beforehand, okay, you can also claim £180 for that lower fee, because we do understand that that is not always in your control, and you have made the effort to ensure that a caseworker is available. Okay, but as I say, it's only if you attend in person and if the IRC have not advised you in writing beforehand. We would also expect to see that you have attempted to contact the IRC unsuccessfully. So you've emailed them or you've tried to call them multiple times to try and find out if there are any clients. Again, that deadline of midday before the surgery is really important here. So if you haven't received anything from the IRC by that point, give them a call, send them an email. Please do feel free to copy in the IRC queries team, as I said before. If you've tried all of that, no response from the IRC, please do still attend, because there may be some technical issues that they're experiencing. For example, their emails have gone down in the past, and just be assured that if you do attend, you will still be able to claim that £180. Okay. That's how to claim for a surgery, or what you can claim for a surgery. I just want to take a moment to focus on what happens with the substantive matters. So that is work that comes out of that DDAS surgery. So, for example, you see a client for the first time in a DDAS surgery, they have a substantive matter that you're going to open for them. What happens with those? So with all of those substantive matters as a result of an initial DDAS surgery appointment, they can all be claimed at hourly rates. Okay, that is set out in regulations as well as in the immigration and asylum specification. However, if you are in any doubt, please do contact your contract manager and they will be able to verify that for you. Okay, and the last section then is how to claim for your DDAS surgeries in a little bit more detail. Now, we have tried to make this as easy for you as possible. So you will see on slide 17 that we do reference the guidance for reporting controlled work document that is published on gov.uk. So what you have on that slide is part of that, but it's not the entirety. So for all of the different CWA fields, there is an explanation of what you need to fill in. Okay, now CWA, as I've just referenced, that is the online system for claiming for DDAS surgery. So it's the controlled work and administration online system. You will have a form to fill in on there for your DDAS surgeries, but as I say, we have made it as simple as we can. And what is on this page is just an overview of the key elements. So the case start date. Case start date should always be the date that the surgery was undertaken. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have taken any clients on after that date as a result of the IRC, the DDAS surgery, but you must record the case start date as the surgery date. Okay, the MT1 and MT2 code combination is always the same for DDAS surgeries and shouldn't be used for anything else. So the MT1 code is IAXL and the MT2 code is IDAS. In combination, they should not be used for any other claiming. Okay, only for the DDAS surgeries. The advice time, so that is the total advice time for the claim. So for a DDAS surgery, the maximum number of clients, as I'm sure you're aware now, is going to be 10. The maximum amount of time you are going to spend with each of those clients is 30 minutes, which means that the maximum advice time you should be recording is 5 hours. Okay. The net profit costs, as I've just explained on the previous slide, will depend on how many clients you've seen. So if you've seen 4 or fewer clients, it is £180 that you enter here. And if it's 5 or more clients, it's 360. Okay, you will need to type that in yourself, but again, be very clear, it is only 180 or £360 that you can claim. Okay, and that will be dependent on the number of clients you've seen. IRC surgery field, you need to select yes. And again, the surgery date is the same as the case start date. So that is the date that the surgery took place. So that first and that surgery date fields should always be exactly the same. The number of clients you've seen at the surgery, so it is fairly self-explanatory, but I did just want to clarify to make sure that there is no confusion. So that is the number of clients who attended the appointment. So how many clients did you actually see and advise at the surgery? Again, maximum of 10 in there. The next field is that number of surgery clients resulting in a legal help matter opened. So that's not the number of clients you've seen, but the number of clients that you have taken on as a result of that initial advice appointment. Okay, so it may be 0, it could be all 10. Okay, but that should be the number of clients you have taken on as a result of that surgery. As I say, there are complete and full details for you in the reporting controlled work document, and there is a link on slide 19 for you, so you will be able to double check there. On that slide 19, there is also details on how to get in touch with the IRC queries team, okay, as well as links to the various regulations and the contract page as well. I really hope that this was helpful. Please do take a look at the question and answer document that will also be uploaded alongside this. And if you continue to have any questions, please do contact either your contract manager or the IRC queries team, and they will be more than happy to help. Thank you very much.